Well, this is my first webcast of the 2011 campaign on the race to Holyrood. The subject matter of this one is going to be transport, and as we all know, transport is absolutely the lifeblood in Orkney. It's really important, and each route is like an artery which gives life, and it brings social cohesion, and it brings economic prosperity to these islands. It's very difficult in a time of austerity, when governments are looking to reduce budgets and cut things back, when you've got something that's as critical to our community as transport, to be able to work our way through making sure that we can make cuts but still retain service. Our external ferries, we know the government are looking at very closely, and the threat, particularly to the Stromness to Scrabster ferry route, is very real and very concerning, with the consultations that have been out in public recently, and very soon we're going to hear the results of what the government intend to do. I feel this is such a big threat, it's worth to get there, to get in the mix, and to make sure that Orkney is heard and the proper information is received by the government. Other parts of what is called the North Isles contract, the North Link service, we know that there's been changes. We know that there's high usage on the Aberdeen to Kirkwall route, but sometimes these services don't run at the very best times for Orkney, so therefore I think that proper negotiation needs to be done on those routes too. The other big issue, I would say, is with that is the connectivity. It's when you actually get across the Pentland Firth. How on earth are we going to manage to make sure that we get the trains and the buses linked with the ferries for onward travel? I think it's a big issue, and that is something very much for the government's ears. Going beyond that, we come to our internal ferries, and these commuter routes, these freight routes for islands, these routes that everybody meets on. They're a social event for us when we go on these ferries, but they must be fit for purpose, and it may be that we need to reconsider some things, but we have to make sure the future's planned for us. The dreadful congestion in the South Isles, new boats required for the outer North Isles, and in that mix too is the internal plane service that used to do so much before the roll and roll off service came. Need to start thinking, how do we provide exactly what we need for the future there? But we've gone for years now without the Scottish Government coming on board, although they've given us the runaround by asking us to do one appraisal after another. We still don't have the major long-term commitment in there for our community. I think that is essential, that that's nailed early in a new term of government. Other issues that affect us with transport? Well, I'm not going to speak much about the fuel duty and things, because they really are a reserved matter for the Westminster government. That's Alistair Carmichael's department. But we do have things around the edge of making sure that we can get fuel to islands for people who are further on the periphery. The one thing I'd like to mention is that the one thing that has come in over the last number of years, which is free transport for older people and for disabled and whatnot. There's a vast amount of spend in Scotland, but most of that spend and the per capita amount is weighted far more heavily to the urban areas, whereas we can't even get anybody helping us with dial-a-bus or anybody helping us with that kind of transport on the ferries. And I think that there's time to make a shout, to make a play, that we looked at that more on the basis of how much do we spend per capita, because transport for us is a far bigger consideration, because it's essential for us, whereas in some other places it's a luxury. So I think it's very important for us to bring that to the Scottish Parliament and actually shout for our own position and hope to get some kind of response on that. I think what needs to be left well alone are the actual routes. that we have for transport, because these are tried and tested. These we know have got service. We've got service users. We know that communities build their social networks around them. We know that communities build their economic routes through them. So I would say the routes need to be left. Some of the times may need to be changed, and some of the ways we do things, but the costs of delivering these things must be reduced, because we can't be taking such a huge part of our spend on transport and not be having enough resource to do the other things that are really important, like the care for the elderly, like teaching our children, like doing the additional things that make Orkney a very interesting place to live.